Breaking tonight, the Biden administration is revoking former President Trump's executive order that attempted to ban TikTok and WeChat on the basis of a threat to national security. The White House says tonight it's calling for a broader review of foreign apps that may pose a national security threat to Americans and their data privacy. So let's talk tech and about a slew of developments from woke world. In tonight's lightning round, we bring in the author of the upcoming book, Woke Inc., Vivek Ramaswamy. Good to have you back with us.
Good to see you, Shannon.
So as we hear that this executive order from the Trump administration about TikTok is going away and there's going to be a different review, I was looking at TechCrunch just last week. It said TikTok has just given itself permission to collect your biometric data, including things like face prints and voice prints. Apparently, there was a change to their conditions if you accept last week. And it says this, it introduces a new section that says the social video app may collect biometric identifiers and biometric information from its users' content, including things like face prints and voice prints. What do you make of that, especially when there have been national security concerns about that particular app?
Well, look, this narrative that apps that are created in China that are used in the United States are used to collect information from United States citizens and consumers and give it back to the CCP is absolutely true. I think it is rampant. I think it's happening every day. The CCP has mastered the art of using our own companies as Trojan horses back against us, including to collect data in ways that we would have never imagined. In fact, there was great reporting on this by the Wall Street Journal last year on even Airbnb as a condition for market entry in China, effectively having to be able to turn over data. That could include geolocational data. I don't know, but it's actually really a sensitive issue. And the question about the executive order being rolled back, Shannon, I think is a closer call because in a practice, the Trump executive orders here were rolled back or effectively annulled by the courts anyway. So the fact that Biden rolled back those two executive orders, to me, wasn't really the news of the day. The real news is coming up. What are they actually going to do about it? And if they really are going to take a broader review, great. I'd like to see it. But that's still ahead of us.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Americans will be very interested to see how that review turns out. Okay, so there's been a lot of news and conversation about Lockheed Martin and this revelation that they sent more than 1,000 employees over the last few years through a specific training. And Senator Tom Cotton has pushed them on that. He wanted to know more about what it was. So this letter from the CEO back to Senator Cotton says employees did attend a 3-day training course entitled White Man's Caucus, which was administered by an outside vendor, White Men as Full Diversity Partners. It's the name of the vendor. The training is required for leaders based on level and position. Then it goes on to say, but Lockheed Martin bases no employment action on the training. What do you make of it? It seems to be getting to be more standard corporate fare these days.
It is standard corporate fare that is a vanilla, down-the-fairway civil rights violation. And I respect Senator Cotton for bringing it up. I think he was off by half in where he focused, because his letter seemed to intimate that the civil rights violation here was on the basis of race and gender, on race and gender-based discrimination. And, of course, the company was ready, had the response ready and lined up, said that they don't base hiring and firing decisions based on this kind of training, even though it's mandatory. Actually, the part of the Civil Rights Act that they're violating is different. In my opinion, it is the religion clause of Title VII, because the religion clause of Title VII says you can't discriminate on the basis of religion. But that doesn't just mean you can't discriminate against your employees for their religion. It also means that you as the employer cannot force a religion down the throats of your employees as a condition for employment. And that is exactly what's going on here. Wokeism is the secular religion of our time. It is a comprehensive belief system with its own apologies, its own excommunication, its own language, its own clothing, things you can and can't wear. That's what wokeism is. And to me, because it was mandatory for these people to remain employed, that's actually a Title VII violation, not on account of race or gender, but on account of forcing people to bow down to this new religion at behest of being fired from their job by their employer. That's the case that I think Lockheed Martin employees should bring in federal court now.
Well, and it sounds like that's the vibe that we're getting from this prep school teacher in New Jersey, I believe it is, who said she just couldn't do this anymore. She was worried about what students were being taught. She says, here's how it turns out. Students arrive in my classroom accepting theory as fact. People born with less melanin in their skin are oppressors, and people born with more melanin in their skin are oppressed. Men are oppressors, women are oppressed, and so on. She says the school claims that we teach students how to think, not what to think, but sadly, that is just no longer true. She said she's out. She's not going to teach these kids something she thinks is actually turning out to be destructive.
Well, look, Shannon, I think teaching critical race theory to kids in schools is a form of psychological slavery. And I think that's ironic because critical race theory is obsessed with America's legacy of slavery. Well, I think this is a new form of psychic slavery, which effectively tells kids that you are a prisoner of the color of your skin. And to tell minorities and to teach them to be victims rather than victors is actually something that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy and holds these kids back and pits them against one another on the basis of their color of their skin, which as kids, we all know kids don't even begin to look at one another that way until they're taught to. So I think that what we're seeing in the schools today is probably the thing that most threatens the 60 years of progress that we have seen in this country since the Civil Rights Revolution. And I think that the threat could be existential to the future of American democracy as we know it if we don't step up and fight that trend in our schools more than anywhere else.
Yeah, we're increasingly seeing parents doing that, going to those meetings, getting involved, running for school board themselves, and just getting educated about what their kids are being educated about in their schools. So we'll keep an eye on it. Vivek, always great to see you. Thank you for your time.
Good to see you, Shannon.